Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make a rock record.
There's no kind of formula or sound that we're aiming for. We're just aiming to please ourselves musically.
It's all about human chemistry, really. I think when you get a bunch of guys together that have been together as long as us, there's no category other than Deep Purple.
Came out of about 3 or 4 writing sessions with sort of jamming sessions where we have a bit of fun and play and sometimes a bit of music appears that interests us that might become a song. And it's actually, that's the fun part.
The hard thing is when you start the writing process, you have lots of ideas. And the first 2 or 3 days you bang, 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 bang. And they're all strong ideas, you know, because they've been building up. Then it gets a little more difficult because then you're having to create new ideas, and sometimes you start accepting ideas just because you did them, not that they're particularly good. That's the hard point, when you have to start becoming cruel to yourself, say, well, it's okay, but it's not as good as we did before. So that's the hard bit, but it's fun coming up with new music. It's fun coming up with something, you look at each other, everybody's smiling, and that's great.
In a way, whatever we do becomes us, becomes Deep Purple.
It was a turning point, wasn't it? It was a big turning point because working with Bob, he said something very interesting when we were talking before we even worked together. He said, "I'd like to see you guys doing what you used to do, not in terms of the way you play your music, but the way you approach your music. And that is, if you find something good and you want to extemporize upon a theme, you do it." On the first 3 albums I was with, the band and Roger, there were only 7 tracks on each album, and some of them were quite long, 7 minutes, 8, 10 minutes long. Music was a good vehicle to have extended pieces on. On the construction, the orchestral elements, or the soloists and the rhythmic drive were all developed until it reached a natural end, instead of being compressed into those 3-minute things. There was a tendency, as we produced ourselves, to kind of think of the radio element. Going back to Smoke on the Water, that was 7 minutes long on Machine Head. No one heard it apart from the live crowds, and it wasn't until somebody came along to a gig in LA and heard the audience reaction to it that they thought, this would be good, play on the radio. So they cut it down to 3.5 minutes or 3.25 minutes. We were never any good at making pop songs. I mean, Deep Purple is primarily an instrumental band, and that's what we should do. And that's what Bob was saying with Now What. He said, let's just relax and extend your stuff. I'll tell you when it's getting too much, but just enjoy yourselves with the music. And so the old way of approaching construction came back, and it was allowed to flow freely. I think that showed instantly in Now What. It was a big difference to previous records. This was definitely a major milestone as far as we were concerned. This inFinite record is a natural extension of that. It's not the same, but it's walking along the same path.
Since we did Perfect Strangers back in '84, it was no thrill from being in the studio. It's just one of the things you do. From making the Now What record in a great studio and everything working the way it should and everything being easy, recording became fun again. And that continued using the same situation on inFinite.
Probably the highest chart position we'd had in decades. So that was a really a good shot in the arm for us. And a good shot in the arm for all our fans as well. I mean, it went down really well with the fans, and well, it went down well with us as well. And so the idea of coming or going back in the studio with Bob was that we couldn't wait actually to get back in the studio. And the thing about working with Bob is he insists on everything being as live as possible. So we're a live band and we spend most of our time on the road, on stage. And studios is kind of a weird place to be creating music because it's a bit cold. But when we start playing together, all that disappears. And Bob's words to us on Now What was stretch out. Those two magic words. And I think since then we've taken his advice.
For me to get out.